Hey guys, Mike with Chassis Parts Online again. This is the control arms, Crown Vic, lower. These are 1 inch shorter than stock. These are for the 56 outside. One thing I forgot about having to do on these is installing the ball joints, because I don't usually do that. I usually send them in the package. So I'm gonna have to put some primer on these so they don't rust, and I'm gonna have to install the ball joints. I'll give you guys a tip on installing ball joints, stuff like this. Use some anti-seize inside the hole where the ball joint's going to go in, so it slips in easier. But also take the ball joints and throw them in the freezer for about 3 hours prior to installing them. Now, I do have a 20-ton press over there. I just may not have any sleeves to go over it to fit these, to be able to press that in. So I'll have to make something. I've got plenty of DOM tube around here. I may have to throw some pieces on the lathe and make something to work. So let's step outside for a second. The other issue I've got out here is that I did not measure those holes after I redid that plate and moved all those holes to different locations. Now, I didn't move that front hole. I used that as a lineup hole, and these holes that were laser cut, I did not move those. Now, of course, I've had to ream them a little bit, but they did not actually move. But all of those moved. So I'm gonna have to pull the bolts out of those and measure from the back corner over and up for each one of those holes, so I can transfer that to my to my CAD drawing for laser cutting later, because I can't even draw the plate to hold the rear arm mount until I know where those holes are in space, basically, X and Y axis. Now, I do have the rear arm mount made for this, so I'm going to put a stock control arm on here, and that stud sticking out the back, I will line up that arm with it, and then I'll mark where the arm fits on the side of the frame, and I'll show you how to do that. And then I'll make a plate from there. I'll have to manually make a plate. I don't have time to get one laser cut. This truck needs to leave this weekend. So I'm going to measure all these holes real quick and transfer it to paper, and then go from there as far as putting the arm on, and a lower arm on, and the rear arm mount on. All right, so I got my fat ass down here into this frame. There's not much room in here. Now, inside here, there's an angled plate and a flat plate along the front with holes in the bottom of it. And then inside here, we got a flat plate, top and bottom, that have holes that are lined up pretty well. Yeah, I know where to put those at. I'm gonna have to change the drawing by 1/8 of an inch on the top and bottom holes, because I need this to come in 1/8 of an inch for the final production version, so that we don't have to have this spacer here. But let me get these numbers from the plate here. We'll go from there. Okay, so basically what I'll do is just make a simple drawing like this, and it's for CAD. Okay, so you guys that don't understand CAD, I'm going to explain it to you pretty easy. The computer just needs to know in numbers where each one of these holes is and the diameter. Now, I already know the diameter is for 1/2 inch bolts, so I'll have the machine cut it at 0.505. That gives me enough room to get the bolt in, even though it probably had to be reamed anyway. But on computer aided drafting, CAD, 0 is down here in the bottom left corner always. As far as I know, I haven't had any formal CAD training. I just learned from a guy. Okay, so you got an X-axis that runs horizontal, and you got a Y-axis that runs up and down. So you got two numbers. That hole, for example, is 1.125 over from that edge, and 4.875 up from this edge. Okay, from that corner, basically, that tells you where to put that hole. And all of these, I have the numbers for each one of these. So if you're drawing in CAD, you will learn your fractions really, really quickly. There's a way to draw from a template also. If you had a template, if I took that off and had a template and placed it on a board, you have a template that's basically a board that's got a ruler down one side and a ruler down the bottom, and you use a square to slide over sideways and up and down to find where that hole would be, and the line that corresponds with each direction would tell you how far where it's at if you're drawing from a template. Now, if you had a template, let's say you're cutting a piece of steel for something, like when I worked on armored cars, we'd have an odd shaped piece of steel. It'd be like this, you know, and we'd need to know, we'd have to draw on the template. We'd have to cut a template, first of all, that fit the hole. Then you got to know where each one of these points is in space. So you'd have just like this, you'd have an X and a Y axis, or where every one of these is in space, by measuring it on a board. This is a little bit simpler. So all I needed was those measurements. I thought I was going to have to take this off. I woke up in the middle of the night and realized that I hadn't done the drawings for this. So all night long I kept thinking I'm going to have to take this center section out and take one side off. But no, I just needed to pull the nuts off of those and knock the bolts back flush and measure from that corner. It's kind of a pain in the ass to get under the truck to do it, but it's already done. It didn't take me 10 minutes. So I can draw that in CAD, but I'm still going to have to put an arm on here after I put, I'm going to go ahead and press the ball joints in them, put some primer on them first. Then I'll put them in here. And today I'm going to go ahead and make the uppers. So I may not do the arm today unless I get time. If not, I'll do it in the morning. Because that arm plate I can make pretty easy. But since I'm changing these holes right here, I'm going to move these holes. This is where the steering box was. I'm actually going to move these holes, move this up here to right here in the middle, and put another hole right here, somewhere above it, where these two correspond like this, instead of what we have there. That way you would have basically 6 holes to hold this plate on. And then there's a part line right in here between this plate and the plate that's going to go here on the production version. And I've got a plate to go behind that with 2 holes here and 2 holes here to tie those together. So that'll make all that strong if someone wants the front and the back pieces. And we talked about, I was thinking the 57 to 60 frame is very similar to this. It's really not. Let's go check that out. Last Sunday, which should be 3 days ago, I went to Oklahoma and picked this up. This is a 1960 F-100 rolling chassis. Okay. Now that crossmember right there is definitely not like the 53 to 56. Now that frame is similar right there, the way it goes up, but it doesn't go up as much of an angle, and that flat spot is a little bit wider top to bottom. Looks like some of the holes are in the same place, like for the steering box and probably the shock hole. I'll know that once I make a template. I'll have to make a template. I'll probably take that brake line off of that side because it'll be easier to do that side than to have to take everything off this side. I'll get the rivets out of that right there at that front part where the shock is, and I'll see how that lines up with the front line of hole I have on the 5760. Now we do have this hole right here, but that hole is bigger than a 1/2 inch. Probably it might be 9/16 or something like that. I'll have to see, but it is on both sides. So I would assume it's in the same spot, same as this, probably in the same spot on both sides, as well as this bolt hole. It's on the other side. Top holes here. All this would be good lineup holes, especially with rivets back there. All these holes will be the same. The brake hole will be the same. So probably be easier to cut that brake thing off of that side and that shock, pull the rivets out of that over there. and make the template from that side right there. This frame looks like it has not been bent except for right there, that little spot right there. I can bet I can bend that up and make that level pretty easy. Now the back of it has been cut. It would look like it had broken at one time, but I don't need this frame for a truck anyway. It's just going to be for mocking up. I will mock up, for you guys that are looking for 4 links, I will mock up a 4 link that uses these holes. Either these holes right there or 2 of those holes, and these 2 holes and those 2 holes, something like that. Maybe you even use these holes. This looks like a bed mount hole. Maybe something, a bracket to go on here, depending on how long the bars need to be. This does have a 9-inch rear end. Looks like a nodular, if you ask me. It's out of a 1960. If any of you guys need a 9-inch rear end, get with me on it. I'm in North Texas, near Dallas area. So yeah, I'll be mocking up 4 links for this with the option of a panhard bar, Watts link, track bar, whatever. Air ride brackets. I'll basically use holes that are already existing in this frame. Same thing here. You got shock holes there, 1 hole in the center. You got holes in the frame on the other side. I'll use these existing holes to line up your plates when you get ready to install the plate. But I'm not even going to touch this until I get done with the not only that 56 but the 83 that I got over there. The other thing is, my good friend Dennis Weingarner of Farm Truck Racing TX over in Weatherford sent me this S550 rear. We're going to make shorter control arms for it. We haven't decided on the amount shorter, but probably it's going to be 1 inch. We may be able to do 1.5 inches on these, but certainly that requires having axles redone. I don't know if that's going to be I don't know how hard it would be to make axles, but I'm assuming they're not hard because they look just like CV axles. So Dutchman or Moser or somebody like that, or somebody that does lots of CV axles, could probably take care of that pretty easy. But that's none of this stuff's even coming off the trailer till that 56 and the 83 are both done. Look what else is in the front yard. 64, that's a running driving truck my wife bought. Short bed, 352, 3-speed. And I bought this 65 to use along with the 66 that I already have to make a crew cab. Look for that project in the future. Okay, we are back to the 66 chassis on the table. We're going to do the same thing on it. 4 link. We'll use probably these holes right here to line up the templates. Maybe just the front 2 and then have to drill 2 more up here, depending on how long we want the bars. Or maybe we just use all 4 of those. You got holes in the cross member that you can use for line up to mount your Watts link or panhard bar, or some of these holes right here that's in the side of the frame. I know a lot of guys put a gas tank here, so we're trying not to intrude on that. We'll make a underbed step notch or a bigger step notch to go right here. The cool thing about a step notch is I had the idea that since you already got these rivet holes right here, I can make a step notch where the plates come up here, over and back down, and to line it up where you don't have to do any measuring or anything, just to line it up, there'll be 2 holes right here with a tabbed part going up to the notch, where you just take these 2 rivets out, put you a bolt through there, and then cut the tabbed holes off after you weld it on, and then you just box it in from the back. That's an idea I had, but that's just one of those ways I like to make stuff easy, make it bolt in. Maybe some different cross members that will bolt into these right here to more easily accept a fuel tank. Maybe even make some fuel tanks. But I don't know. Fuel tanks are a pain in the ass to make, and there's not a lot of market for them If you do, you got to be really good at it. Anyways, this 66 chassis, what we talked about before, making the rear arm mount on this one mounts in these two holes right here, as we talked about. So I drew a line from here back to here. The thing I didn't do on that when I did that is I had the left frame leveled, but I don't know if I checked to see if that line was level. So I'll have to check that line again. It's not going to matter because, well, I guess it will matter. It is going to really matter when I go to draw it in CAD, because I need to know from the top of that down, from the top of there down to the top of that hole too. That's a critical measurement there. So yeah, I do need to check that. But in the distance from the edge of this hole to the edge of that hole, or center to center, with either one, and I can draw those in CAD pretty easy. Transfer it to here, but you're only talking about 12 inches back from that main hole, so it looks like it's going to fall somewhere where those two angled pieces, the two holes and the steering box hole is. So may have to do something different on here. We'll find out in the morning. But as I said, I'm going to do I'll put some primer on the lower control arms, press the ball joints in. And if I get the chance today, I'll bring a stock arm out here with the rear arm bushing on it. The little J-shaped arm that I have. I'll show you one of those in here in a second. Put a bolt through the bottom. We don't have a slotted hole in the bottom. It's just a round hole down there. Okay, all our adjustments on the top. So that wherever that bushing falls is where it's going to fall. I can line that up pretty easy because I've got some aluminum mock-up bushings that'll hold that bushing right in the middle. It won't be metal. I mean, it won't be rubber. And there's me a control arm right there. I can use to mock up that side. I've got a upper control arm there, and I've got a spindle here somewhere. Another arm right there. It's the other side. I got some spindles over here somewhere with some hubs on them, and I've also got some bare spindles somewhere. Bare spindle sitting there. This is one of those that belongs to the customer that was modded to use the bigger brakes. I think it's Cadillac brakes, if you ask me. I think that's what he told me. It's that or GT500 brakes or something like that. I can't remember. Anyways, this is spindles that are going on that 56. It belongs to the customer. I've got two sets myself here somewhere, but they're not modified. One more comment on spindles real quick is I have done a bunch of tracing and measuring on these Crown Vic spindles, and I will be making some drop spindles for Crown Vic. Now, no, they're not going to be billet like those really nice, really expensive ones. They'll be steel, water jet or laser cut, and they'll be fully TIG welded. And I'm thinking we're going to get about 1.5 inches to 2 inches. I don't know for sure yet. We'll see when I start making pieces. And that is the rear arm mount. That one and this one right here. This is the rear arm mount that goes on the 65 to 79 chassis. That bushing obviously goes on the arm. Then this goes into those holes. So I'll mock this up and see how good it fits. As you can see, the holes are not straight up and down. They're offset, just like they're on the frame, so that the bracket is straight up and down. Makes it a lot easier to draw stuff in CAD. But that's what that looks like. I'm going to try to use that same J-shaped arm on the 56 and on the other ones. If it doesn't work out, hey, we'll just change the design. It's not a big deal. Other than that, that's really all I got for today. Peace.